Okay, so her next question was regarding med beds. She wants to know, do they exist and will we have access to them and when?
Yes, they do exist, and there are many that are working on them now. But the ones that are working now are more in a structure. They are not 100% of where they need to be. They do work with the fields, but there is certain frequency structures and hertz of them that are not being put into consideration because it is being looked at more as from a human mind on a physical perspective and not more on the energetical. But there are people at current who are tasked with this and who are working on this. And with this, as we would say, there will be access to them and many will receive this access, but these systems are currently being put into place. We would say patience, patience, patience. It is the hardest thing, but we are currently shifting you all. It is not an easy shift at this time, and many of you need to understand this. You all have been locked into different structures, and we cannot remove all these structures at once and open new avenues, as many are confused and do not understand. And even if they understand the information when it's given, later on they cause confusion in their mind by overthinking and over obsessing. So what we do is we are slowly creating spaces and removing spaces and creating this dial type of effect. So to say that the medical industry is not thus of the best, but it is moving into that direction. There are certain groups of people already which are moving forward and creating these structures all over the world, but they will only be enhanced in, as we could say, a few years' time, where they will become more mundane in effect. But it is just to be patient. They are of the way, and there will be ones that are available to the public and the light workers in nature. Thus is coming, and this is going to be a beautiful form of healing. But for now, there are many light workers who are the instruments, they are the tools to create those effects until we move into that type of civilization. But that is still a bit more advanced of to where you are now, because it needs to move in the right structure and the right time in order to be able to receive that.
And what do these med beds look like, and what do they do?
So thus for the ones that what they are doing is they are like a type of a pod that one would climb in. And what they do is they send in different types of frequency bases that bounce in and bounce out. And they can isolate them around different areas. So let us use, for example, like for the bones. For having bones and structure that are more broken in nature, they could isolate around just the skeletal structure itself, and therefore around the skeletal structure cause that frequency in order to start pulling the bones together instead of waiting for the natural cycle of the body. It just enhances that cycle the body already has by causing that frequency.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
These beings are loud.
Should I go and tell them to be quiet?
It is just to close this of the window.
Okay.
They are just very festive, as they are happy as one has completed its yearly cycle and is very happy.
They
We
did
bless
say happy.
them with energy and love for this one's celebration of this one's Earth Day.
Yes. Oh, is that what's going on? Okay, I'm sorry I gave them a dirty look then. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, it is just that they are very happy and excited because one has got his Earth Day today,
Yes.
where he's passed another cycle on this planet.
Okay. So we should send them happy energy.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so just getting back to the med beds. Okay, so you're saying that it is a kind of pod, and then people get in, and there's a frequency that's sent out that then
yes, so they
specific to certain areas.
Yes, because each system within the human anatomy vibrates at a specific frequency. So when they alterize that this machine, and it is not a machine in one that the way that machines are now, this machine is a purely a light machine that works off of crystal base and crystal frequencies. And that crystal will send a frequency that will, let us say, as an example, to go around the bone structure. Like let us say at 230 hertz, that this will connect around the skeletal structure, and this for a period of time will only play this frequency. And this frequency will just speed up what the bones need to do to heal. Because remember, when inside of the vessel is sharing multiple frequencies and is sending different frequencies to different areas at different times. But if one would say to lie there for 5 hours with this frequency only playing around that area, it does not harm any of the other functions of the body, but it is putting that focus on that. So that area is receiving all of the focus for that vibration. It will start pulling the bones back together and lock them in and heal them perfectly without causing scar tissue and damage. So it will speed up the effects in each structure, and that is what they are being developed for. So that we could say that when humans get to a stage that in the evolution, that when one is sick or has a dysfunction, one could just go into these beds and then it heals that structure. But it is to say that one's mind then has to heal with it to become higher than the construct, because afterwards those beds are going to fall away and the vessels will be able to do it on themselves. But it is just to help move the collective and speed up the healing in towards the new phase. But that is still coming. It is not in this year of time, but we could say within, as we do not want to give a timeline because many hold so deeply onto that. But we would say if the collective stays waking up, and if all goes well, and if all keeps putting in good energy and frequency, within a 5-year span of your years, you will start be seeing this more often. But we would say to you to not hold on to that timeline because it all depends on what the collective does with their free will.
Yes, because like we saw even now in the surrogate, is free will then overrode the intuition or the signs, and then it cannot be stopped by the higher beings, I suppose.
And that is why we don't say to the sense to hold on to information so dearly, because we give you an information, but because of your belief in your structure and what you do, you go and alter the outcome, and then many get angry at us because it does not happen, but it's because you create the altar.
Yes. Okay, just to clarify, so it's a kind of laser that's sent through a crystal.
It's not a laser.
Or light.
It is a sound frequency.
Okay.
It is sound, because everything is a sound frequency first, before it becomes a color or a light.
Yes.
So it will be a sound wave, but that will be the more advanced beds towards the end. At first, it is now starting with different color therapies, and then it will move into physical sound therapies that you will feel the sound waves, and then it will move in towards these silent sound fields.
Okay.
But these color pods are already active and available with sound frequencies within them, but none have got the recipe just right. But that will only come when they already at a certain level. We cannot release that information at first. We first need to walk before we can run. So now the information for the beds is those to help those to learn to crawl, to move people forward and help them. Then the next version will be one could start to stand and walk. And then the last version will be the ones where you could go in for a few hours and come out.
Okay, and then it's kind of like if there's a density in the body, then the frequency is sent in, and then it will kind of harmonize that. Or how does it work?
Because it harmonizes the structure. So let us take, for example, just something in small like a kidney. This kidney in structure, that let us say when there's an infection in the kidney or something is happening, that there is maybe one part of the kidney, maybe in the lower left side of the kidney, the hertz frequency is not the same as the rest. It is at a more lower and slower. And therefore it's causing this disruption. When this field comes around it, it is playing one frequency that is the original frequency, because even though the person's kidney is vibrating at a frequency and this is lower, let us say that the whole kidney might not be at its original frequency that the human body needs because of time. So even the whole structure, this one frequency of sound will start to play, and each cell will start to harmonize themselves towards that frequency. So they hear that sound and they set themselves to it. And when they set themselves to it, they push out all old frequencies and sounds, and they remove disease, dysfunction, and they bring themselves back to a healthier state of a version of that organ.
Yeah, it's kind of like a tuning fork.
Yes.
But I mean, these technologies already exist, right? These kind of those, what do you call it? There's like frequency machines and things that you can put on your body and it does the same. Is it
Yes,
not?
there are many, but not to that extent where
Okay.
they can isolate the entire organ.
Okay.
Those ones are playing through the entire vessel
Yes.
and it's being picked up. But there's a specific and intricate way that the crystal will reset that frequency. But there is only in the second phase of these types of machinery and beds coming out will those techniques and information be released, because one can only get that frequency through the heart and understand that frequency, because it mimics what the heart can do for the body. Because think of the body as all the cells are tiny little crystals. And this frequency that pushes through talks and communicates to that. So the heart is basically a giant crystal. Think of it in that type of concept, just for this form to understand the information. So then, only when one connects to the heart and receives that frequency, one will be able to rebalance that crystal to be on that like frequency, and then that crystal will always work off of that frequency. That is why, time and time again, we always come back to the same. Go back to the heart. This tool is the original tool. This tool is the original frequency that creates this life in this vessel, that pulls this whole compound structure together. It is the most amazing tool that one has inside of the vessel. Once you connect to that frequency, it is so easy to connect to other frequencies, whether it be plants, people, animals, changing molecule structures. All of these fantasies or magic that one would say that one is always craving to have is possible, but only through the heart frequency.
Okay. But I don't understand where does the crystal fit into the med bed?
So within the med beds, so for now the med beds are just machines and they are being used. But inside of the circuit where the sound wave comes out, they put crystal sheets. And now it's being used with that, because crystal holds a lot better of the frequency compound rather than to what a different type of metal or structure of that would be used. Think of it almost as if when you take a circuit board of a computer, all of those chips are crystals. And that is what the machines, the med beds, are doing. All of the chips is crystal chips. But eventually they're going to get to a point where they're not going to have a machine that they're going to plug in and run electricity through. They're going to have a crystal-based machine where they program the machine for the crystal to work off that frequency. And then when one goes and sits in it, that crystal will pick up which group or system needs that frequency to harness that heartbeat frequency around it to harmonize it back.
Yes. What kinds of crystals will be used?
There are different types, but we are not going to disclose this, because if we disclose these types of crystals, there are many who are too eager and they are going to try to make these things now and going to throw them off of their purpose. So we will not give this information.
But this sounds similar to the healing chambers that we hear of ancient Egypt, Atlantis type of thing.
Yes, it is similar constructs. But as we say, we will give you the information on telling you of what type it is, but we are not going to tell you of what type of crystal, because it is only a specific type of crystal that can get used. But it's not a crystal that many are familiar with, but we are not going to give this information at this time.
Okay, and so with this person who's being suggested or requested the surrogate, will she be part of these med beds, running them? Is there any connection?
There is a connection, as she will be a part of a group that is using them at first inside of this country that she is currently in.
Okay, so then we will see this in our lifetime.
Yes, as we say, if all goes in the way that it is looking, you could see it in a span of potentially 5, maybe less years. But depending on what is going to happen, we cannot give it in a definite timeline, because timelines keep changing and depending on what the collective is calling.
Okay, but is it helpful to even then have an external thing that can heal you if you can actually do it internally? Because a lot of spiritual teachers are saying we are already our own med beds.
Yes, you base it off the heart frequency. But because many have gotten to the stage of a lot of damage and trauma within their bodies, they cannot harness that energy because they cannot connect to their hearts. They first have to lift all of these frequencies and heal these in order to get to them. So these beds are there just to help lift and get people to connect back to their hearts. But as we say, there will be a stage where these beds will no longer be there because one can just do it from the heart. One would not need it, but not many are that advanced. And the spiritual teachers of this planet need to know that even they are not all so advanced in doing it.
No.
So it is a nice thing to give to the collective. However, it is not a practical thing because many can't even work with their own emotions and heal themselves emotionally. So therefore, there needs to be an outer structure to help them to achieve the inner structure.
Yes, okay. Okay, anything you'd like to say about made beds? Anything specifically people need to know?
There is no specific information that we would just say on the med beds per se. As we say, they are coming and there are groups of people and light workers who are already working on it. So there needs to be no fear on it. All we would say for the collective is to keep that reality and keep that hope and keep manifesting a world where nature and our construct can merge together, and what is good for the planet is good for the human and will be good for the society, and create the link together. We would ask for all to project their frequency towards that, as that is what is needed now for the planet. There are large shifts coming, and there are large shifts that are going to be taking place. And some of them do not need to be, as what we could say, chaotic in nature. So the more we send this energy out into say that the more we are trying to harmonize with the planet and keep that structure of harmony with how the humans live and how nature and the animals live, and draw that in is very important of this time. And we would ask the collective to try to do this as a daily practice, just to send out that intention that they are looking for a world where these two are merged together so that we can bring forth this reality a lot quicker.
Yes, but I've heard that made beds already exist, but the technology is just being blocked at the powers that were, by the powers that were.
Yes, there is truth to this. There is very advanced med beds that are out there, but they are not available for the public.
Yes.
However, there are light workers and beings who are getting a better versions of these beds and getting nicer ones that are going to work better for the vessels, because the ones that they are using at this time are very good and powerful for that healing, but they are very bad for the energy field. And they are disrupting the frequency field of the beings.
Okay. In which
and
sense?
In the sense of they are not, we want to put it in a way that it is going to make sense for the collective. Everything has an energy field, electromagnetic field around it. So think of planet Earth. Think of the electromagnetic field around her, which causes us to be separated from space, which causes the atmosphere that we can breathe, move, and do all of these things and sustain life on the inside. This is all coming from an electromagnetic field from the inside of the planet that is circulating around. Each person has the same structure around their vessels, which then draw in particles the same as what the Earth would hold in the atmosphere. This holds in your construct. And therefore, your manifestations and things that you want get drawn into your reality. And that's how each one could be living in their own reality and their own world. Does this make an easier way of explaining so far?
Yes.
So this is what takes place. But these people with those machines, when they use them on the vessels, they upgrade them and they heal them.
Yes.
But because they do not have the right heart-based frequency with it, they break the electromagnetic property of that person, which leaves holes inside of their vortex, which then is now causing damage. And that is what they are not telling others. So be grateful that you do not have access to these machines, as they will block and hurt many. Good and better ones are coming that will be available to the public and will not be available in a way that is going to cause the public to have to go into a frantic mode in order to receive them. It will be available for anyone who needs them at any time. And thus you can reassure that we are sending love, we are sending light, and there are many light workers here who are connected to their hearts, who will bring forth this purpose.
Yes, and I suppose it's also about then, creating the healing, but then also the person should then not manifest the same condition again. So there needs to be some kind of education as to why it's happening and how they, deal with the emotional states and all of that. Otherwise, they will just be straight back to the med bed in 2 weeks.
Yes. But that is why these ones are also done in a specific way, because just in this way that you are explaining, coaching will be done. It is almost to say that these beings, before they receive the healing, will first receive a mental healing and have to put in that practice. It won't just be available in a sense to say for any person, but it will be available for the collective who wants to heal. Those who are hungry to heal, who have been doing the internal work to be reprogramming their minds, their beliefs, their constructs, working with their shadow, their inner child, helping to understand themselves so that when they release that, they could just carry on with their ascension. It will not be closed off to those who put in the work, but it will be closed off to those who do not put in the work.
Okay. And who are these at present? Who has access to these med beds?
The current beds that are not so great.
Yes.
We would say these more that you all like to call the elites in nature.
Okay.
They are those. But that is why many can pick up that these are, we would say the elites look like they are dysfunctioning because their electromagnetic field cannot hold, because they are trying to bypass the system and do it without doing it from the heart. But they are very silly. If they just connect to the heart, they can do this.
Okay. But it is also another process to do that. But we need to have a lot of videos on that so people can just watch it.
Yes, but all in good time. We feel that this year is a good year where many different types of teaching will come forth that many will start to understand because now they are ready for this information.
Okay, any other information about med beds people need to know?
Nothing at this time that we will give.
Okay, thank you.